You did amazing. No, thank you. So good evening, everyone. It is 7:00 p.m. on Tuesday, May 13th, and I'm going to call this Board of Town Commissioners work session to order. If you would please do a roll call for us, Assistant.
Yes. Commissioner Brooks, President, Commissioner Colbert. Here. Mayor Franklin.
Here.
Commissioner Watt.
Present.
Public Works Director, McDonald. Here. Town Administrator Craig Anderson. Present. Police Chief David Byrd. Here.
Thank you. We can rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag do a quick review of the agenda. And actually, I'm going to request that we do a quick shift because our guest, who is item D for Police Mental Wellness Program, is actually here already. So if everyone is okay with it, we can allow our guests to speak first, and then we'll do public comment, budget public comment, budget discussion, and then splash pad project discussion. Is there anything else that needs to be added or any other changes? All right, hearing no objections, is there approval of the agenda as amended? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. We will get right into a presentation from our guest, who is also our grant writer, Adrian Augustus.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Franklin, and thank you, commissioners, for allowing me to speak this evening. So as the mayor said, some of you know me as your grant writer, but this evening I am presenting in the capacity of an independent contractor who is running the mental wellness check-in program. I realize I need to share my screen so you can walk with me through this. Okay. So the Mental Wellness Check-in Program is a project that I created in late 2020 while working full-time for the City of Hyattsville Police Department. I was their Media Relations and Mental Health Programs Manager, and although I am now an independent contractor, I still run this program for them and for the town of Brentwood, which partnered with us when we launched in 2021. So what is the Mental Wellness Check-in Initiative? Well, with HPD, it was a 50-minute one-on-one psychoeducational session with mental health professionals, not therapy. And this was for everybody at both the City of Hyattsville and the town of Brentwood Police Departments, officers, dispatchers, support staff from every level, including the chiefs of police. These sessions were quarterly. I created the program so that people could have meaningful engagements with these mental health professionals. It's not meant to just be a one and done or a check the box to satisfy some requirements, which, by the way, we launched this before the state decided to implement mental wellness checks. So we were a little ahead of the curve there. But it's intended for people to be able to really talk about things that matter to them and not just sit down with someone who essentially they could see as just a stranger because they only see this person once a year. They're also confidential. Now, while I was working as a full-time employee for the City of Hyattsville, I also coordinated with graduate level interns from the University of Maryland who worked with me to collect data that we got from surveys we conducted before and after every round in that first year. So the surveys would come in, the interns would collect the data, and they'd present it to me after they'd cleaned it from any name so that neither I nor the chief knew who said what in these surveys. Also, the sessions are confidential, just like any other mental health professional meeting with a client. They are HIPAA, the conversations are HIPAA protected. These are not tied to fitness for duty assessment. So the discussions that are had are not reported to the chief of police. They were not reported to me unless someone was deemed a danger to themselves or others. The conversations stayed confidential. also not tied to the human resources department. It was very important to me that this program not be aligned with the idea that information could be collected and stored in some sort of a file, and that discussions could follow officers through their careers. And they're required. Why are they required? Well, it eliminates the stigma attached to the idea that someone may or may not go to see a mental health professional. It means that one person knows that somebody else is going and tomorrow's their turn. It also means that people who may not really buy into the idea of mental health, seeing a mental health professional or self-care, are exposed to the idea of meeting with a mental health professional so they can see what it's really like and then hopefully choose to, whether it be now or sometime later in their life, to actually make an appointment when they need one. So with the Hyattsville Police Department's program, in the first year, we had 71 total participants. 45 people, about 45 people were in each round, and that included in the second half of the year, the Brentwood Police Department. 71 total participants because obviously some people come, some people go, but about 45 each round. So out of the 34 people who participated in all 4 rounds in the first year, we were able to collect data before and after each of those 4 sessions from 20 participants. So the data I'm going to show you now, and don't worry, I won't bore you to death with lots of spreadsheets, but I am highlighting the 20 participants who we were able to track through the first 4 rounds. And I was delighted to see that once we pulled together all of the data, that what I'm about to show you trends very closely to the larger participant group. So on a scale from 1 to 5, how well do you feel you connected to your practitioner? The highlight here is the green on the far right. That 5 represents people who were very satisfied and they felt like they connected to their practitioner. You can see the 4 numbers were high as well. Throughout every survey, even late last year, we always had 2 or 3 people who just don't buy into the program, and they always skew towards the 1s or the 2s. On a scale from 1 to 5, how well do you think your practitioner understood you? Again, great numbers in the 5s and the 4s. On a scale from 1 to 5, how productive do you feel your session was? Again, and let me just say that I did not only pull out the good data. This is the trend that we saw after every round, either before or after, positive results in the first year. And I'm still running the program for them, and we collected data last year, and people are still highly satisfied with the program. So directly from one of the participants, I like the program. I think that these check-ins are a helpful way to vent about some things that maybe have been kept inside. It's a safe space within work, and I think it's beneficial. Now, I told you, I'm not only showing you the good, because this is not so great. I dislike the fact that I have to attend them when I already have a provider. It is an absolute waste of my time. Now, the one thing that I will say about this is that the person admits they already have a provider. So this is not somebody who we have to convince to buy into the program, and they've acknowledged that they already understand the importance of self-care and mental health support. A few others, this should not be mandatory. I'll get back to that. It's nice to check in, keeps me grounded. There's nothing I did not like about the program. Doing this quarterly is too much. Once or twice a year is enough. We did scale back with Hyattsville and Brentwood to 3 times a year because we had federal funding that allows people to go whenever they want. I do not use these sessions as they were intended and should be made open to family members of officers. Again, that federal funding allowed us to add family wellness sessions last summer, and some people have been taking advantage of that by having close relatives or other members of their support structure join them in extra sessions. That this should not be mandatory. My response to that is typically, we have always had optional. Optional is called health insurance. If people were taking advantage of health insurance and seeing mental health professionals when they really needed to, the suicide rate for law enforcement would not be as high as it is. So until we are able to eliminate that stigma altogether, required programs help get people the support they need and help expose people to the support that's available so that they can then use their health insurance to continue to see a clinician when they need to. And so this quote made my day. I truly believe this has made a positive impact on my life, and it came at the perfect time for me. And that was after the officer had only met with their mental health professional 3 times. So that's how impactful this program has been and can be for others. So what am I proposing for the town of Upper Marlboro's police department? Starting off with 4 rounds, just to see how people do. Maybe you scale back to 3 the following year. The sessions are during work hours to prevent overtime costs. Not only does this mean that you're not infringing upon somebody's personal time, but you're also not needing to add to your budget because people are doing this outside of work hours. Budgeting for clinicians at $150 per session is absolutely feasible. And management fees for general operating needs, which is me managing the program for an agency the size of Upper Marlboro, that would not be a lot of hours. This program, after a while, we get into a groove, and particularly because I've been working with some clinicians now for 3 or 4 years, they understand the program and they may be interested in participating in one with Upper Marlboro if you should choose to move forward with it. So, Clayton, I apologize. I definitely talked for more than 5 minutes there, but I am eager to take any and all questions. And I'm sorry, I look like I'm in a black hole right now. The sun has set, and it clearly changed the lighting in the room.
Well, do you all have any questions?
I do. How long is the session? How long is the
50 minutes.
session?
50 minutes to an hour, just depends on how much talking the person wants to do. The clinicians in the Hyattsville and Brentwood program have been very generous with their time. And if someone needs an extra few minutes, they provide that.
Commissioner Colbert?
Adrian, thanks for the presentation. A couple of questions I wanted to ask about outcomes related to the program. Have you collected any data or have any data on either officer satisfaction with their job or their rating of their job performance before and after these sessions, looking at, engagement, looking at any interactions with residents, looking at, has there been, a decrease in filing of grievances or complaints, just kind of a before and after picture of how this is affecting the work?
Thank you for asking that. So unfortunately, we have not been able to collect that kind of data. It is data that I want to be able to collect in a larger project, but right now, that larger project would be down the line. There are a lot of things that can impact somebody's job satisfaction. And not to speak, this is just one example, but if you look at 2020, had we started this program in 2019, job satisfaction would have been terrible, and people would have said, oh, this program does not work. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. So social, environmental factors can come into play there. But what I've also learned through the operation of the program for Hyattsville and Brentwood is that turnover can also impact people's job satisfaction. And so with Brentwood, I think I'm on police chief number 4 now. And from the time I first pitched it to Hyattsville, I am now working with police chief number 3. So, I think we all know that as leadership changes, priorities change, roles change, that can all impact somebody's job satisfaction. What I am very much interested in being able to track at some point are the outcomes when we compare number of sick days, number of injuries, number of use of force calls. That's information that we can do apples to apples that are not necessarily impacted by external things, including politics, leadership changes, environmental changes, those types of items that we really don't have control over.
Thank you.
Oh, another one.
I just want to make sure, Commissioner Burke, do you have any questions?
You said each session is 150. Do you take health insurance for the payments?
So that is a tricky one because we don't want, this is not meant to be therapy. It's not meant to be, people are not being diagnosed. But depending on your health insurance, you may need a referral to be able to see a mental health professional. So if someone is okay going that route, and it could be something, I don't want to say as simple because I'm not going to minimize anxiety and how debilitating it can be. But when we talk about anxiety versus schizophrenia, people are more comfortable talking about anxiety. And so it could be something where somebody's referred for anxiety, but then there is technically on paper, there is some tracking of that. What I am going to do though, moving forward, is make sure that any clinicians who are part of this program do take insurance. So that way, if anything changes, if somebody leaves a department, if a clinician leaves the agency and they're no longer part of the program, somebody who really wants to follow them can do that through their health insurance.
I think kind of tied into this is so we had talked about the program and the funding and like an initial year of us funding and then other grant options. Did you want to? I think that's where is that kind of where the question's coming from? It's the funding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, Mayor Franklin, you've been part of a discussion where I was hoping to be able to work with a number of agencies, including a collective group of smaller municipal agencies here in Prince George's County to do a larger project. This is what I was alluding to earlier. That could be privately funded by a private research grant-making organization that is very interested in this program. What I would be requesting of them is that they provide all of the funding for years 2, 3, 4, but the municipalities would have to provide funding for the first year. And with the understanding that there's no way to guarantee that funds are available from year to year with municipalities, but if the funder wants us to be able to collect this data, as I said before, with use of force and sick days and things like that, then they have to guarantee that the municipalities can participate. Now, right now, it doesn't look like I have the collective groups needed to do that. It doesn't mean it's not something that could happen in a year. What is available right now, this just popped up last week, the state is providing a grant for agencies that want to do mental health checks. Unfortunately, the low end is $20,000. It's a $20,000 ask. So for your department to be able to qualify for this, you would have to partner with other agencies. And I am happy to facilitate that sort of an application. Clearly, I have the data to help back up what we've already been doing. It's not a new program. I know that there are, for instance, the town of Brentwood wants me to continue running their program, Hyattsville as well. So there are some agencies that are looking at doing this, but you have to meet that $20,000 threshold for the next fiscal year.
Commissioner Lott, you had.
That was one of the questions I wanted to ask, but I came up with another question. So since this is not therapy, but this is a therapeutic session, the person needs to feel comfortable comfortable enough to express certain things. So how, because they don't come on a regular basis and it's not something that, you're just doing it quarterly, how do they develop that relationship?
I don't have an answer for that. All I can say is because I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not in the sessions. I think the connection that people immediately had with the clinicians, I think, is just based on number one, which was one of my top priorities, is that all of the mental health professionals have experience working with first responders. And I made that clear to all of the participants. I did not want anyone to feel like they had to spend time explaining their job or explaining why they live at a stress level here, where the rest of us may be here, but this doesn't mean somebody's in crisis. I had a dispatcher walk out of her first session and I said, don't give me details, but can you just tell me like how you feel about it? And she said, it was fun. I wasn't prepared for that kind of a response. But what I can say is that the majority of people who are still in the program are still with the same mental health professional they started with, or because of circumstances where we actually lost a couple of clinicians, they had to switch. But in switching, they still felt very comfortable with the person they then chose. And everybody has an option. There are multiple clinicians. Having the option to select people is very, very important.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, I think that's it. Thank you for.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you all letting me join you via Zoom.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Good.
All right.
Very much needed.
Maybe go sit on the couch.
All right, well, we are going to move on to the budget public comment section. So it is a work session, so we have a special time for residents to share their public comment with regard to the budget. If you are online, please raise your hand. If you are in the audience, you can just come up to the podium. Remind everyone that you will want to state your name and the street you live on. You do not need to give us your address. This is a professional setting, and we do expect everyone to speak and act professionally when they are here. So if you'd like to share your budget thoughts with us, please do. Okay, so. Okay.
A little of the, figure with Amanda, was needed money. I don't know if that has gone anywhere beyond that. However, my thought is, we have a lot of money coming in from the speed cameras, and they are part of public safety. And we should put them in the budget as part of public safety, with a line item and money that we should be able to contribute. Over the years, we have not been able to do that. But I think at this point, we are more than able to help them. They are a volunteer fire department, and they're at our beck and call. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay. I'm going to move into our budget discussion. And I am going to turn it over to the town administrator to take us through this.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. So tonight we're going to discuss FY 26 budget. You know, when I was tasked with doing the budget this fiscal year, I was trying to, change some things, but I didn't actually have an opportunity to make the changes that I wanted to make. So we're going with the format that we've gone through, gone with the past few fiscal years. I didn't change any of the line items, but if you have suggestions on how you would like, I have suggestions on how we could clean up some of the line items. If you have suggestions, I would appreciate those as well. So we can start at the top with revenue. What I wanted to show was the actuals for FY 25 as of the end of April, right? So total taxes for FY 25 as of the end of April, $1,468,412.57. The FY budget, we had budgeted $1,533,280. And this year, there's a slight increase of $1,630,049.72. Now, this takes into consideration some of the uncertainty around federal employment and how that impacts us in the town of Upper Marlboro. You have any questions there? I'm sorry.
Off topic, but you're sorry.
All right. Any question? Okay. So as we move down here to total fines, licenses, and permits, FY 26 budget is $1,244,300. Our actuals to date are $623,253.99. Now, there is a pretty big difference there because we are factoring in adding 4 additional speed cameras once the annexation is completed. So the revenue would increase to 900,000. And I'm sorry, I skipped over a bit, but currently listed here, our speed camera revenue as of the end of April was $469,224. But we checked I think Monday, and it's at 523, or well, approximately 523,000. So we're going to exceed budget in FY '25, and I think it's pretty safe to say that the $900,000, if we annex, we would meet that as well.
Probably a low estimate,
Uh,
probably a low estimate.
Yeah, it's a pretty low estimate. Parking meters, we have budgeted at 250,000. We're at $125,000 currently, but that's a result of, we've had some broken parking meters for quite some time. I think to date, we've got them all pretty much done. So I think we will probably meet, even with the number of broken meters that we had, we still came in at about 50%. So I think with an entire fiscal year at full capacity, we'll definitely need the $250,000 there. Parking fines and penalties. The actual is $14,000 so far. We estimated it to be at around 55,000. We had some equipment issues for a lot of the year, but now we're up and running and we're issuing parking citations again, correct, Chief? Correct. Public education and government broadcasting. The actual for this year is 10,000. We budgeted 3,500. Historically, it hasn't been as much as 10,000. Just been around 3,500 to 4,000. So I kept it there at 3,500. And again, I'm looking at line items being miscoded and really trying to go back and correct those things. So I think that could have happened there because historically we haven't been at $10,000. Are there any questions?
Few questions.
We got you, all right?
One, do we know why it's at 10,000 this year compared to the previous year?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking into, how it was coded.
And for some of the other items, like the fines, licenses, permits, parking fines, penalties, you kept the same budget for last year, even though budget as what was budgeted last year, even though, we don't have anything collected in one of these buckets, and like we'll trend toward that for this year. What's gonna change?
So for fines, licenses, and permits, again, it's a coding issue. Now, the mayor and I, we've been trying to get it corrected through SkyTab and Authorize.net, and we haven't had success there. But once we're coding payments properly, the budget should be the revenue should be approximately $15,000. It has been in the past. It's been in about $10,000 range. So it should be. I'm attributing that to the SkyTab Authorize.net problem as well.
And then last question for this section. Help me understand when it comes to issuing fines, speed camera citations and things of that nature, are the numbers that we're recording as actual revenue, is that the value of what's been issued or what we've actually collected in fines?
It's the value of what we've collected.
Okay.
Right, so the 523 is what we've actually collected. We pay a separate dollar amount in fees.
Right, out of that 525, all of the associated fees come out of that. So, yeah, that's what was brought in, salaries, rental, leasing of the equipment, all of that comes out of that total number.
Sure.
That's your expense.
And this isn't for the budget, this is just a curiosity. I'd be interested to know how much, we've actually issued compared to what we've actually collected, what that delta is, but that's not that's the curiosity.
Commissioner Burke, do you have any questions?
Not so far, no.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes, you asked my question about the 10 grand.
Right.
Total intergovernmental, for this year is 86,322. That would be $56,322 in highway user fees, $30,000 in state police aid. I know this year we're only at 16,203, but the balance of that should come in from the state. So
It comes in two buckets.
it comes in two buckets.
Yeah. Chief, you know that.
Actually, it should come in
3.
Well, the way they do it, you get 3 in the fiscal year and the 4th one comes at the beginning of the next fiscal year. So you kind of, it's really 3. Even though they give you 4, it's only 3 that you actually get.
It's 4, but one of them's from the previous year.
Well, yeah, but it's in the next, it usually comes in July, so
Next
you
fiscal
don't
year.
count it as a previous fiscal year because it goes into the home, so.
So,
Right, so we'll move on to miscellaneous revenue. Now, miscellaneous revenue is one of the areas I'd like to take a look at defining some of the line items a little better. Moving forward, but we don't have to discuss that tonight, but just for the radar, we'll be looking at having some clearer line items. I think miscellaneous revenue for an audit is kind of can be difficult, right? And that includes interest earnings, town hall services, transfers from reserve, special events, donations, and things like that. For FY 25, we had a budget at $121,725. The actuals this year are at $40,623.01. Now, that's a lot less than the 121 because we haven't had to deduct the reserve amount, so we haven't used any reserve money at all. Now, it's going to be higher in fiscal year 2026, and we'll talk about the splash pad a little more later, but it'll be I'm asking for $150,000 to transfer from reserve to help finish the splash pad project. It actually may cost a bit more, okay? And Darnell and I, we can talk about that as we.
separate item on the agenda.
Separate item, yes.
All right, just a question. See where reducing our town hall rental revenue from 4,000 in the budget down to 1,000. I see that we're probably not getting a lot of rentals. Are we thinking about any way to increase that? Are we marketing using this space at all?
We have a lot of rentals, don't we?
Well, we have the one consistent rental. We've got one every Sunday. But it's consistent with the one every Sunday, but it's not like gang. But of course, we could definitely have more community engagement and advertise that a bit more. So we can do that. And this right here, see, this is another example. This is a bit off. This number's off because we have collected more in fees than this total here, the 604.33. So
That's the SkyTab issue.
that's the SkyTab issue. So we're looking at, we've got to correct that, but again, I think if we had some clearer line items, clearly defined line items, we wouldn't have, because there's some line items, there's certain pieces of revenue that could, if you looked at the line item, it could fall in either one, right? So we just want to make it clear.
And just to remember, like a lot of this is that Clayton wasn't here for a big part of the fiscal year. So our Director of Public Works and I were trying to figure out how to code general government item. That the coding, what should have been coding is probably what Darnell's doing, but always what I was coding. So a lot of that has to do with the transition period. And so our town administrator is busy cleaning that up and we appreciate it.
So it'll be fixed is what I mean.
Because he's consistently coding things where they need to be.
Yeah. Let's see, so the last portion is grants. Again, last year, a really high number, 1,415,000. And that consisted of the state streetscape project that we budgeted $425,000 for. We had the facade improvement program at 50,000. The DHCD circuit rider grant at 84,000, which we were awarded 70, but there was a carryover of about 14. So That's 84,000 there. The DNR grants, obviously, we don't have those this year. We didn't spend bond bill 21,241 or 22,661 or, shoot that bond bill number, I'm sorry, but this bond bill was for, I think, downtown. And we didn't spend that either. And the county DPW and T grant, we didn't spend those funds either. Okay, so this year, fiscal year 26, I don't have anything funded in CIP or grants for the streetscape project yet, because we're also looking to secure funds from Congress. I think we asked for about $1 million as a part of that. For the FIP, 80,000, I think we still have $30,000 there. We haven't been able to disperse that. So we're going to be requesting another 50,000, and that 30,000 that we haven't spent, we have an extension until June 30th of 2026.
Question, Clayton. What is open space grant?
That's
Oh, well, go ahead.
like,
Yeah, the open space grant, and that was,
it's 5510.
that was when we received 500.
Oh, that's 50, that's the purchase of the land across the street.
Okay,
Purchased on the street, so that was $523,000.
but we don't have anything listed for that.
Yeah, because we don't have an open space grant this year.
It's one of those.
It's still sitting there because it got used. Like some of these categories are sitting there and they go, I think they go away when we use them at all. Basically, they're into it with that.
Any questions?
So, sorry, you said the county DPW and T grant, the 75,000. Right.
Yeah.
Didn't use that this year, carrying over to them.
That we're actually trying to figure out what would be done. So qualifications, when that grant is applied for, we can see how we're supposed to spend.
Because now we've got a month and a half left to try to.
Right.
That also is like several years old, and we were under the impression several years ago that we had spent money to it, and we can't find any records of the reimbursements, so I have a bit of a record keeping problem, I will just say.
All right, so on to expenditures. I will discuss the general government expenditures, and then I'll hand it over to Chief Dornell. Chair commissioner salaries, well, the total 5,300 general government professional services budget is $544,950. Our actuals for this year are 367, 317.98. And we budgeted 590,825. Okay. So commissioner salaries, 34,000. Commissioner expenses, this was my mistake. There should be an additional 2,000 there. It shouldn't have been reduced to 10. So it's 12,000 there. General government salaries, there is an increase from 274,000 to 289,000. A part of that is because we are bringing services in-house, and we've got to adjust people's job titles and salaries to fit that, right? And we also have we increased the salary a slight bit more for the deputy town administrator, town clerk. And this also includes the cost of living increases as well, the cost of living allowances as well. Bonuses have remained the same because we do have a part-time person that did increase by $350. 25, the FICA, that was estimated at 23,150, so it did go down a bit. Our health, life, and dental benefits, we're budgeted at 45,000. We're only at 16,345. I believe in general government right now, I think there's only one person receiving benefits there in general government. So that's why that's been reduced there. Professional services has been reduced by 7,000. Because again, we're doing, it's been reduced by 7,000. The accounting budget, because we are looking to bring some things in-house right now, we've exceeded our accounting budget because they are taking on some tasks that wasn't a part of their original scope of work. So it will, once we get these things in-house, it will reduce to 27,500. And we may also go out for an RFP this year as well. The audit is about the same. I just received a bill today from the auditors for about 9,500. So it hits the mark at 14,000 right there. Payroll and processing, that's going to go down a bit because we are going to do that in-house. The town attorney and legal estimated at about 28,000. So that's, actually it's estimated at 40, I'm sorry. No, it's 28,000. No, the estimate is 40,000. I apologize.
Well, part of it goes over to.
Yes, I apologize. It's 40,000 and it's divided 28,000 general government, 10,000 to the police department and $2,000 to public works. So with the professional services, that's another change. And I do apologize for not laying that out earlier. A lot of the professional services that we have, each department is a part of that, right? So the police department uses the town attorney, Darnell and myself. In the past, it had all come from general government, but we split it up a bit this year, right? So I do apologize for not making that distinction there.
And just some history on that. This has to do with putting all of the police's actual costs into the police budget because the police is paid on the police costs. So if general government bears costs of the police department, that reduces the amount of state aid we get, really benefiting nobody. This is actual cost of service or based on actual percentages that they use.
I have a question. I meant to go. When you talk, and where it says salary bonuses, that entails what?
Well, that's the yearly Christmas bonuses.
The holiday bonus.
Holiday bonuses that everyone gets. And I think it's 700 per staff member,
I
750
think it's like 650 or 700, somewhere around there.
around that. And
Then there's half of that.
half of them for the part-time person.
Yeah.
So media relations, self-explanatory. We really haven't had to use them much this year. So I think reducing it to 5,500. And we also have Adrian. She's a grant writer, but she also does some work for us as well as a part of her contract there.
What other things does she do?
Well, she does some work for the police department with their community engagement and things like that.
She has media background,
Yeah.
so she does.
So she can write press releases if we asked her to. She can, but we typically don't, but she could. She does write she does wrap brochures for us and things like that. So she does those things.
Yeah. I could tell.
Government relations, that's, Greenwell. So I think we did reduce them to $17,600.
Split them with police.
I'm sorry. We did split them with police. So 17,600, 8750 to police, and the balance of that to public works.
And there's just a lot of police bills that happen.
So, you know, they do lobby for us. They did a really good job of representing us. You know, there were a couple of bills that would have been detrimental to the town of Upper Marlboro, so they were instrumental in that as well, in getting our voice heard. We're also using them to try to secure some money from Prince George's County that's been out there for quite some time. And they do have a plan in place to help us with that as well. And we have the planning firm at $25,000. I think that
The survey.
that was the surveyor, but as we've talked about economic development and strategic planning, I would like to leave that there just in case we do find a need to go out for an RFP to get someone to help us with a strategic plan. I know MNC PPC, they have.
Yeah, I've been speaking with
Right.
the director and deputy director at MNC PPC. Once our trail, our feasibility study for the trails closes this summer, they've encouraged us to apply for PAMC for downtown, and looking at the adaptive reuse of the school building, because that will be collaboration with the county. And so MNC PPC is a good firm, or
Right.
not firm, but a good kind of
partner.
partner to have to make that all happen.
Yeah.
And they cover that cost when we use planning assistance to municipalities.
So again, down to general government operating. What I noticed is we have insurance and benefits here twice. We've got a 32A year and 32A with health, life, dental benefits. So I think we can mark one of these off.
Mhm.
There. Merchant services fees. Again, these are credit card payments and things like that. We haven't had too many fees this year. We're at 3409. So we budgeted 4,500. Training. I know Commissioner Lyon had mentioned, and a lot of the commissioners as well, had discussed training and not just going to conferences, but actually going to a training. So we did increase the budget there. Also anticipating, because we haven't really had a lot of interest in the town clerk position, people with town clerk experience. We're gonna have to put them through training whoever we hire. So that increased the cost there as well. Dues and subscriptions, basically our different softwares. Postage is at 2,500. Currently we're at 1,000. We're at about $1,100. So $2,500 is safe. I do have a bit of an asterisk because we are looking at a quarterly newsletter. So that may increase a bit. Did you have something on it?
I was gonna say, I think we had all agreed that we wanted more, like 4 mailings, so that maybe needs to increase to 3,500. I feel like it's around $300 every time we do a mail.
It's a little more than that, but
Okay,
So we're going back to doing the quarterly newsletter.
yes.
or at least quarterly mailing.
No, I mean, I think the residents would appreciate that.
Printing. Well,
That has to go up too. because-
Right. So I think what I did here, the printing has gone up to 12,500. I think I've incorporated the newsletter in that printing line right there. General supplies is the same at 10,000. Town hall office phones increased to 10,000 there. Mobile phones, we're over at $7,122.53. The reason we're over there is because for the past few months, I've just been paying all of the department cell phones. I've just paid for it out of general government, when actually it should be split 3 ways. So once that gets adjusted, I'll be under the $5,000, but I've just,
You can reclass it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And town elections. Last year was budgeted 4,000. We budgeted approximately 8,000 this, for the upcoming, not the special election, but the election in November. That should cover the cost of the Board of Supervisors of Elections, if they want to hire additional election judges, the materials that we need. So that should safely cover that. Town hall utilities, the price of everything is going up, so the estimate is we need to increase it there, just to be safe so that we don't go over budget. The cost of energy has increased quite a bit.
That was more expensive for us too.
Right. So town hall repair and maintenance, we're at $14,671.16. I don't know.
It's also the one that's gonna come over to public.
Oh, you gotta move it.
Are we doing any contingencies? I
Um,
mean, you
I
have
just haven't gotten
10,
there yet.
I mean,
it's 15,000, so we've increased it from 10 to 15.
okay. Right, so is that, any department can use that, or?
Yes. Yeah. And others, just, there are things that we, for birthdays and for staff birthdays and things like that, we use, we have everyone's birthday, we do something for their birthday. Things like, administrative staff member day, we,
Boosting our higher level elected officials.
yeah, so all of that goes into the other pot right there, right?
And contributions.
Well, contributions, last year was the food bank.
So I think this is the aid thing, but I was wondering, the resident
Yeah, the
financial assistant,
resident financial assistant, but
but I was wondering about the food bank and the volunteer fire department, and where they would go if we have the funds. So I think that's a discussion for the board to have.
well, so when we did ARPA, report, the food bank did come from what we gave to the food bank did contributions from I'll just put that out there.
I mean, should we discuss now if we want to increase it for the food bank, and would the fire department be under here, or would that actually?
I mean, they would be a contribution, but that's I would rather have a line item that said fire department.
Oh, yeah, we would need that because if we get tax break, do we get tax break?
What
The differential, do we get credit for the fire anymore?
do
Changing it,
Yeah, yes, I believe we do.
okay.
Didn't they come here and give a presentation and say that they needed help?
I don't think they asked for a
They
specific.
didn't ask for specifically help, but Kendall has asked if we had discussed, or Chief Wallace has asked if we have. So I think this question is, do we want to make contributions to the food bank and to the fire department this year? So thoughts, commissioners?
The food bank, let me ask, does the food bank only encompass our residents, or is it open to all?
Food bank is open to all. It is hosted by our churches. I know at least one set of residents that use it. I don't know, they don't give me that information. I just happen to know those residents do it. It would be nice to try to have something just for our residents. But we are then talking about freezers, refrigerators, storage space for those. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's why
It's easier to just to go to the church because they already have the space and
and
the.
the equipment. Yeah,
Makes sense,
it always feels like a good idea until you start thinking about keeping everything.
unless we put it over there,
Put it where?
over there.
Oh. Well, still, cost of energy and all of this is a factor. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
How often do we use food bank? When necessary, certain specific time?
So the food bank is the second Saturday. It is an income, like you have to meet an income requirement. And they use capital area food bank. I know that like a lot of the funding for things like food banks from the federal government is being cut. So, and we're gonna have more residents who are in need of it with federal government contractors. So
That's what I'm afraid of. That is true. But if we're giving out to the masses, and then if our community needs something, how do we balance that? You know what I mean?
I think our contribution is a minor amount
Okay.
of funding for their overall funding.
What's the amount that we're thinking of then?
Oh, I get, so the most we've ever contributed is $5,000. So I don't know if we would contribute 5,000, if we would contribute less. But I'm not suggesting we would contribute necessarily. But that would be, if we want to contribute to them, then
Food bank.
the food bank. But that's also what we sent to the fire department, though I think we sent them a little more from the ARPA funds initially. Yeah, so I think it's kind of a discussion. Yes, there are other people benefiting, but our residents also benefit, and what is the value of that to us? I think that's, ARPA funds, we had to give them to certain purposes, and so that's where we came up with the $5,000. So if we feel like that's more than what our residents are using from that, then we could just give less.
Well,
You see what I'm saying?
Well, I'm looking at it from a church standpoint, because the churches, we have benevolent offerings that take care of people in need that come to the church and actually are members of the church that quasi get stuff, but then they help others as well who come. But if a member comes and needs the bill paid 9 times out of 10, if they've been going to that church and contributing, they'll help them. So I think that if we're going to contribute, then we don't need to increase it, because the churches have funding for that, and they can get funding too.
So this is Marlboro Church's food bank. The food bank is actually, I think it's 8, is that correct? 8 churches in the great, not just within the town, it's like the whole greater Upper Marlboro area.
So everybody contributes to that food bank.
Yeah, not all of our 8 churches contribute to that food bank, but these 8 churches, so Union United, St. Mary's, Trinity, and then there's 2 churches down that way, 1 church up this way. I don't know exactly all of their locations. St. Thomas is probably there. They all contribute. It's been moved to St. Mary's School, so like the kids actually do a lot of the bagging, and then their staff does bagging, and they're happy to have us help. So, yeah, it is through the churches.
Well, I'm not opposed to it, I'm not opposed, it's not $5,000, it's not a big amount, so.
I agree. I think we contribute. I think we continue. We have a history of contributing. I think it's something that's needed. I think particularly in this environment where, to your point, the federal government is cutting back, it's gonna lean more on some of the municipalities to make sure that, residents and community members are being taken care of. So I don't think we want to cut that. But I think it's also important that we give to the fire department, because it is in town. It is something that, they're first responders for this in the surrounding area. Can we find another 5,000 to give the fire department? I'm throwing a number out there.
Well, and I think
Start the conversation.
we have an error in here with 2 buckets of 3,800,
38,000.
38,000.
Mhm. So that's.
Maybe you have the numbers, yeah. There's money in there that could be,
So how much do you want
But
to
what-
give the fire department?
I want to give Commissioner Brooks a chance to share his opinion, and then we'll.
Of course, for the food bank, reports, and then we can discuss some now from the fire department.
When we get into public safety.
Yeah. I mean, we can, what did we give in the last one?
I think the ARPA, I can't fully remember. Do you remember?
So I think the ARPA was 5,000, and then I believe year before last, we gave them 12,000 speed camera. We didn't do anything. I don't believe we did anything last year. I think it was the 2 years before. ARPA, speed camera is the two that we
I
did.
think the first ARPA dump might have been 10. But that was because ARPA was a little different, like we had to use it for emergency response. And I think sort of to this question of making sure like the police budget is where all the public safety stuff lives when we're applying for grants, it make more sense to put the fire department contribution under police or under general government.
Fire department, yeah, that would be, I think more of a public safety.
It's actually, it's
Oh.
a lot.
Okay, we just haven't gotten there yet.
It's 60. Yeah, it's 68.7.
Oh, yes, so we would just need to fund that item when we get there, okay. So is 5,000 comfortable for both with everybody, or is that too much for? We're comfortable.
I'm comfortable.
Are you comfortable? You look uncomfortable.
I'm just trying to think, you said. You said we had 38.
There's 38 or 32,800, that's in two places. So if we take 10 of that,
You know what, I'm sorry. We can fix it, but if that wasn't a,
well, there's also the
that,
police state aid thing that's in the
Right.
expenses that needs, there's money.
you're right, there's money for it, but it wasn't a mistake. This is one of those line items, again, 5,200 general government insurance and benefits should be changed because it's actually property, auto, and other government insurance and life insurance, right? So, yeah.
But we don't have a life insurance program anymore. That's miscoded. There's miscoding in there. Okay.
That life insurance is coming back, but it's not very much.
Okay. Yeah, there's an issue with coding, so there's still probably $10,000 just in general government to cover this, but there is another issue. Okay. More questions or you want to go through the committees or?
Oh, yeah, I'm almost, the committees are pretty much self-explanatory. We do have several committees. We have the events committee, budgeted $1,200. $1,200 for them, and this year we're going to budget 2,000.
I was gonna ask, do we have any money in there budgeted for the community day?
Marlboro Day?
No, the
Community Day?
Back to school,
That's the TOUM event,
okay,
5930.
That's 5,500. Yeah.
No, there's the birthdays. I forgot, there's the birthdays and then this is the one where, we host other elected officials. So you were talking about town hall.
General government other.
Yeah, okay, but it's actually a TOUM event that has the barbecue that we do in August.
Right.
It has,
what page you on?
5.
Okay, okay,
There's $5,500 in that one. So it has the barbecue.
Okay.
It's anytime we host, higher elected officials,
this is our community day goes to do that.
yeah, there's some other stuff in there. That is actually coded correctly. I've checked that. Darnell and I got like coded things. I coded to his thing and he coded to my thing and we had to switch it and we worked it out. So,
Yeah, I don't know, okay.
but that's where that comes out of, and any other like little thing that comes up. think, like, say we, like, we have to talk with school lane people about the road plans, because those are almost finalized, so we're gonna go out there and set up and talk to them, and we will buy
Breakfast.
water and some snacks, depending on the time of the day,
Okay,
and that will go into that bucket.
okay.
One panel committee ad, request for the economic development work group. Good, about $750. They want to put on at least 1 or 2 events just to bring the business community together. Do some advertising, some marketing. So,
Right.
yeah, we can,
How much?
$750.
Well, and business stuff was kind of in this bucket, so if we have to take 500 from this bucket to
Which bucket?
the POUM event bucket.
Yeah, the $750.
Yeah, we can, yeah.
I will let you know where we take it. I'm not sure where it's coming from.
Before we move on to the next category, I don't know where, remember I talked to you about this idea when I was talking with the community person about the basketball court?
Oh, the
Does that
basketball.
belong here, or does that belong somewhere else?
The striping of the court, you mean?
Yeah, you think I should bring it up during public works?
Probably more of a public
Okay.
discussion, because
We will move on.
Just a 2 minutes.
Yes, we are going to take a 2-minute recess.
sorry I'm so long.
All right, so we are back and we are on to the public safety part of the budget. So over to Chief.
Just make sure we're going for the, but
No, we're still in the budget. We're just gonna go over to public safety.
Okay, so for FY 25, the public safety budget was $1,079,600. Year to date, actual, we spent $711,476.88. For FY 26, it's increased to $1,427,100. And the bulk of that is, you know, once we annex salaries, police cars and equipment for those individual officers, an additional person as an administrative assistant.
Speed camera fees.
Right, the speed camera fees, because we talked about if we add the additional speed cameras, the fees associated with those additional cameras is in this number. That's why it's gone up by, you know, $300-some thousand. It's basically those 4 categories, for the most part, as to why the number has gone up. So, annexation is increased. If it doesn't, you know, if we don't annex, then it may be a little closer to what it is, maybe a little less, a little more, but that's what we're looking at for right now. Pretty much the line items are pretty much the same, other than the salaries, the speed camera, and vehicles. Most of the line items are pretty much self-explanatory and equal to what they are for this year.
Question, are we still working on, like we said before, with Darnell's trucks, you know, every year trying to get at least 1 vehicle or 1 truck? Are we still?
Yes, that's why because we haven't got, I think, a couple of years.
Okay. Well, that's why I was asking, because we did say that we should stagger and continue to upgrade the different department.
Yeah, you sent us the CIP.
Yes,
We got your vehicle, but we didn't get any,
we have a couple of vehicles,
You sent us a CIP, but it's not in the packet and I forgot to print it out.
you know. It's oh,
Yeah, but that's why overall.
okay, thank you.
My thing was just this police state aid number. That's not actually supposed to be an expense line item. That's kind of like the highway user revenue, which comes in and supplements the budget rather than being, line item.
What is that? The police state aid? You talking about that?
Yeah, so the money comes in revenue, but it just splits up between all the other categories. It's not a direct expense category.
Okay, revenue, not expense, okay.
Well, I mean, it is an expense. It's just spread out in all the other categories, right? Or that's how we did it last year. I don't know why it says the 30 in there. I'm not sure why it's in here like this, but
Well, the state police aid, you mean?
because when I first was here, what we were doing is we were giving it its own category and then we were reducing all the other categories by like an amount equal to it. But then that wasn't like reflective of how much we were spending everywhere. So I thought we had shifted it to where it comes in and it's there, like, but it's not an expense line.
And it's not factored in that way, that lump sum.
It's like
spread out.
Darnell gets highway user revenues.
No, I understand, it's spread out through all of the expenses here, but you still want to leave it on here to acknowledge that it's there.
No, I think we take it out of here. Out of this, I thought that's what we had done. Let's take it out of here. It still comes in as revenue. It is in your budget. I think it's a technical accounting aspect of it. So it's just, we'll fix that.
30,000.
Yeah, it's the same way Darnell's highway user revenues are in. They don't have an expense line item. They're kind of technically under maintenance, repair, beautification, or street light, or there's a couple different things when you. So we have to file paperwork on it, but they don't have their own category.
The $30,000.
Yeah. So that's, we can adjust that. Does anyone else have anything on public? Oh, we wanted to talk about adding for the. Did we want to put, is 5,000 what everyone's comfortable with there?
Yes.
Fine, thank you. And 5 for the food bank.
It's 5 for the food bank. Okay. Do we have more questions for public safety or should we head over to public works?
Public works.
Devon, those babes.
I don't want to do that. And I'm gonna make this quick, so I'll just go through the sort of large units.
Okay.
Most of our changes, we saw. And, supply chain increases. Public works salary, went up, based on merit raises, the current vacancy and new hire. The FY 25, I believe that was reduced, with the, and
Right.
reallocated, for the vehicle purposes. Let's see here, the overtime is increased to 4,500. That's based on events and, this fiscal year snow total and, other events. I just want to make sure that we're covered in that aspect. Health, life, and dental, based on the projections, that was decreased, but that's due to a vacancy. So we're filling that vacancy and higher, that actually should be bumped up to around 52,000.
Can I ask a question right there?
Mhm.
So with the health and dental and all that stuff, and then we had it on the other page under general government as well. So which number is it factored in the general government amount or each department is gonna have their own?
Each department has their own.
Okay,
Does that?
thank you.
Mhm.
Sorry.
So for pension benefits, that was a number that is, projected by the accountant, and I believe there were some, pension issues.
There were some pension issues there, that we bumped it up a bit to cover that, so that's the increase there. Not as staff,
Subcontractor.
it's a contractor.
So 7210, Public Works, collection and disposal fees, that is our bulk day, tip fees. Those tip fees increased this fiscal year, so this is taking that into account, plus the pending annexation area. The 7220, the waste disposal contractor, that remains the same. However, if we do send that out for RFP, which I know has been talked about, that number will increase and there will probably need to be an adjustment when that happens. Let's see here. Maintenance, repairs, and beautification, that's due to increased prices and increased service area. Jumping down here to street maintenance, that number is bumping up substantially to reseal town roads, some large scale fixes that need to be done, and hopefully we can incorporate some paving our smaller streets. 7360, I would like to rename that to, instead of mobile phones, to mobile tech, because our vehicle trackers are included in that. And based on 2 incidents this year, I would like to add cameras to the vehicles and, and trackers to any equipment over the value of $5,000. That's why you see that increase there. Let's see here, for septic tank, that is bumping up because that line item usually incorporates the porta john that we rent for events, the long-term rentals. Weather-related expenses is bumping up just due to this past year. We've had more wind events, more snow events, more instances where there could have been flooding, just more weather events in general. So just want to bump that up and make sure we're covered. And last but not least, Public Works insurance to reflect the increased legit fees. I believe we discussed earlier this year where Legit reached out to us and said that we have been underbilling for our premiums. So just to take that into.
Do we have a contract?
For the past 10 years, I guess they've been underbilling.
That's too bad.
Right. Well, it doesn't clarify, we don't have to pay, we're not paying.
That's too bad.
Rate did, rate did.
It's the right rate.
Okay. They can go.
Not half.
That's what's.
That's your mistake.
So I'm just trying to square a few things here. In the CIP, I see that we don't have any funding for improvements to town roads, but then we have 60K for streets maintenance. Is that just because we're not getting into one particular street, or is it just kind of spreading out whatever?
Spreading out, kind of fix what we can. I'm pretty sure you guys know that large metal plate at the end of Elm Street.
Directory Lane going. Yeah, I did a good job. Cause it's not popping up. Well, you did a good job, I was gonna say.
We've been trying to get other agencies to take care of that, mainly MDOT. However, based on its exact location, it's more of a us issue, so we want to get that resolved because that's been a lingering issue for at least 8 years. So just things like that. Another one is service lane. As you sort of go to the bottom of service lane, all of that is deteriorated. That's a larger scale fix that we need to take care of. Yeah.
I think we seal coating Marlboro. We're seal coating something that's been recently, maybe Elm.
Elm Street should be redone and at least the cracks filled and Marlboro Drive.
Basically, the town hasn't maintained its road infrastructure as it should. That's why the budget's always been so low. And we are paying for that now. And so we're trying not to pass on that same mistake to another board.
To piggyback off of that, didn't we get Mead and Hunt out here to do surveys and stuff like that? So what came of that?
So as of right now, they're still designing, school lane. And that's the biggest part of that entire package.
Well, how can they help us with the patches that we need to make?
So basically for them, they're pretty much just doing the design and things like that. The patches, that's just getting a contractor out here to repave.
And
Unless we decide to,
on the,
redesign the.
Because they were supposed to look under there and make sure there was no.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, yeah, the stone, yes.
I think did they give you that data?
That's why we're comfortable with moving forward with patches instead of having to bring up entire equipment here to redo.
Sorry. I feel like that was done
Like 2 years
a
ago.
couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So what's been, is there a delay in the design? What's the cause of the delay? Paying for that.
I should really take that question because it has to do with connections. Like, we shouldn't put that on Darnell because what it has to do with is the school board.
No, just asking the question. It's not.
Yeah, no, I don't want it to go. And I mean, what did they do? Right, so they've done all of this and the school.
And we paid.
We've been paying them, but I don't think we haven't paid them everything yet.
Hmm.
Yeah, so the school board basically is the reason school lane is in the state it's in, right? And one of the concepts that we're gonna be talking with the school lane residents about is the biggest issue that school lane residents have is speeding. And as long as there is on-street parking that is not used on the weekends, it's wide. And there's going to be speeding. So what we're trying to discuss with the school board is, can your people park in your parking lot instead of on the road so that we can take away some of the parking and slow down people?
But can't we do that as a town? Say, okay, you guys park over there. This is, because it's
Yes.
our jurisdiction.
It is, so that we can do that.
We need to.
And the other piece is that we have to have access to their property in the right of way to do the stormwater management work. And when we do all this, there's like paving on their property that won't get done, like we're not doing and paying for that. They need to pay for it. So there's all this sort of coordination piece. And we have been working towards that coordination piece with them, and it has been a struggle. So we've had 2 meetings, or you have another meeting set up?
I have another one set up for this month.
And so we're getting to the point where we're gonna bring these plans out to school lane residents will be getting letters. We'll bring the plans out to them because I want to take away their parking without talking to them. If they're like, no, I would rather have the parking and continue to have some speeding problems, like, then we need to have that conversation.
Well, if that's the case, then we need to make sure, you remember Douglas house got hit twice. So we need to make sure that I see there are some speed bumps there now. But when they turn the corner, maybe there's some kind of directional sign to show them that it turns, it's a curve and not a straight, because her house got hit twice because of that.
It's hard with her house because you can't put a barrier because of where her driveway is, but I think we've talked about a bump out there on the side of the road. I don't know what Minaha is like very concerned about the width and required road width, but we have been talking with them about how to slow people down into that curve and then how to keep them slowed down. People past Wilson Lane have complained that their kids are playing and like people are flying by to go to the football games. So we want to slow them down into the curve and then keep them slow going through.
I think the other problem is that people don't realize that it is a curve and they go straight, and that's what happened. They go straight. They think that that's a, like a straight path,
Right.
but it's not, it's a curve. So maybe we do need to put some kind of directional something so they can see that they have to, or some arrows, so they know that they have to make a left.
Right. So that's all part of the discussion is like, how do we because it takes them a little bit to get up to speed through here. They're not really getting quite up to speed until they're at this school board here. So if we can slow them down right there and keep them slow around the curve and through the area, that's what we're trying to do. It does require a level of changes that I believe we need to go talk to the residents about. And it does require the school board having some participation as a stakeholder. The other piece is that this project is how many million?
Originally it was somewhere. 1.3.
So we're up to like probably $2 million or so. So it really requires federal assistance funding. So we're going through all of this and then we have to figure out how to fund it.
Well, we just hadn't heard about how to fund it in a long time.
Yeah, you're right.
The current point, is there anything stopping us from just buying? Sign?
Yeah, I was gonna address that. The road curve chevrons, that's easy. We can.
Yeah, because
We might even have some of those, so.
that would be awesome, because you know, last year she went through the same thing. Somebody was drunk and they went straight.
Even
instead
with
of-
the speed bumps there.
Yeah, they went straight and she like lost the side of her house.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because of that. So, I mean,
And a piece of that is having a conversation with them as well, because I'm not sure where their property sort of ends, like towards the road. There would need to be a sign that's directly in front of that travel
I
lanes.
don't think they, I don't think they want to go through what they went through. Yes, please.
We got sidetracked. And then I wanted to sidetrack us a little bit more. Do we have more questions for Darnell before I bring up this other?
Splash pad?
Well, we're gonna go into the slide, but I had a business owner who is looking at opening a sandwich shop in the new Valerio building, and he also has a youth program during the summer for elementary age kids to play basketball. But this program is becoming increasingly expensive because of the cost of indoor courts. And it's informal, it's not like a big thing. So the idea that I had when we had this conversation, he's like, is there somewhere we could play outside for less money? I don't know of anywhere there's a basketball court. But could we, and this is Sarah's ideas, right? Put some striping onto a portion of our parking lot and purchase the movable basketball hoops and allow them to practice there and use it for other things like other youth engagements. So they'll do like police versus teens, basketball. Obviously, we don't have enough police to field a team, but like that kind of activity, even like the sheriff's office, we could let them host here. When we have our barbecue, we would have that access. And then if we bought the movable hoops, we could bring them out into different communities and do, when we have a community.
Be right out here.
Yes, so they would also have the benefit of the security cameras. He said in the summer they play 3 times a week because he's really trying to keep them focused on a sport and away from other activities.
Here's my issue with that. These kids are not residents. These are not town children. These are kids, and I don't have a problem with supporting children and youth programs. What I'm saying is, if this is his brainchild or his love child, and he has the kids, we can provide the space, but why do we have to provide the equipment and all that other stuff?
So I guess, it's not necessarily not resident children. We don't know, right? We don't have, we have about like 60 kids, but yes.
Yeah, but we would know if this was publicized for our children and youth in this community. We would know about it. I have a school age child. I think I would know about it. I think.
I don't know. I think it's a word of mouth.
Right.
But yes. So we would publicize it for our residents and we can make that a condition. But I think it's really hard to provide activities for our residents and not provide them to other folks. We don't have a lot of residents. So when
But we have to consider that. I think that's a big consider because people are, we're small and we have a small footprint. So when other people use our resources and we're not getting anything in return, it takes away from the town. So I'm just looking at it from that standpoint, because I don't, like I said, I don't have a problem with supporting the children, but I think this is more so his thing. And, you know, if your children are in different things, after school activities, you pay dues, you pay the parents, we pay a lot of money for our kids to be in these activities, and that's a lot of money going into the organization. So they should be able to provide whatever the children need.
Yeah, so he's trying to provide it for no cost,
Oh,
but he has to charge a cost because they have to rent space and he can't. So he's trying to reduce the cost so that access is open to more kids.
mhm.
So I think like if it's something we decided to do, we can caveat that, like, if a resident, you know, we can publish it to our residents, if a resident's child wants to participate, then they have to be allowed to participate. As long as they're following all the sportsmanship rules. But I think, like, I know, you know, my kids, they like to go to events, but the barbecue, there's not a lot of other kids there.
Right.
Marlboro Day, there's lots of other kids, so they're having more fun. So from the kids' perspective, I think our youth residents are happier when we invite in more people to play with them.
See that?
So this is an ask.
I'm asking, because it wouldn't just be for this one guy.
This is just asking some about facilities.
No, so he asked if I knew of any outdoor basketball courts, and when I thought about it, I realized there weren't any. And that made me think kids like playing basketball, and could we provide this
Maybe
to them?
check with the questions and
They'll charge him.
they'll charge them.
But like I said, parents, anytime our children are in activities, we pay. And we pay at least $100. I'm saying, and it's per child. So I don't see it being a hardship for him to find a facility that will host, because they may even lessen the rent because it's for the children.
Well, to do it out here, that's something we need to discuss a little bit
Yes.
more.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something we need to discuss a little bit more. 3 times a week.
It's like it's running a summer camp, where there's liabilities we need to look at.
Yes, we have to contact legit, like, we can't
It's
just.
liabilities.
If it's something.
But that's something that we, as a
Yes.
should really need to discuss, because
There's like, we want to do things to help the youth, right? To give them other activities and whatnot. And I've never, all the youth is like this. And so I've never been given an opportunity where I feel like, oh, we might be able to do this for not a lot of money, right? You know what I'm saying?
I'm getting, do this out here. I mean, just like me.
Now, that's different as Colbert was the coach, and he got. Point you, Colbert. Do right, yeah.
I think.
I'm making a joke.
I think part of it is this would end up being a business owner, a member of the community. We're trying to do this thing, but my thing more so is if it's out here, what are we doing about the vehicles that are in this park?
Yes.
Government vehicles,
Yeah.
if it's 3 times a week, we have different organizations that, once a week.
Right.
Or twice a week,
Yeah.
that are, renting the space. How does that conflict with those schedules? I'm just making sure that the building and space and resources are still available as needed. And 3 times a week seems to be a pretty big ask for a 3 or 4 month time period. Also, the permanence of it. I mean, we have open space funding. We're supposed to be doing something with that space over there. It's not going to be immediate, but is that something we can kind of fold into a plan of whatever we do with that type of space or whatever type of
That's a good idea,
Nation
to add something.
space that we have around? I think there's some other options or things that we might want to consider, even though I know this is more of an immediate ask right now.
And he did not ask this of me. This is my own idea.
Sure. And I get that, but I'm just thinking in terms of, I think there's just more information that I would need for.
Yeah, no, I
that
think
type
there's a lot of
idea.
questions.
But it's not that I wouldn't want to support it, or definitely wouldn't want to support a member of the community, business owner, resident, otherwise, in doing something particularly for the youth. It's just, I'm thinking logistically, how is that going to work and how is that going to make sure that everyone is benefiting from that service.
That's a good point.
I think they're all good.
Very good point.
I don't have the details on all of that. Because everyone's still working their permits and everything.
They need permits.
I guess my ask is just, can we couple extra $1,000 in one of these line item budgets for Darnell that doesn't approve any kind of program, but it's there if we have discussion and decide to move forward with it. Since we're getting ready to adopt the budget, can we put some money in it? And then we can still say, nope, we're not doing that.
Oh,
But if we have these conversations over the summer and decide, yes, we do want it, because we won't be able to do it for this summer. Like, that's just not gonna happen. But could we set something up so that by next summer or spring, we have some kind of facility that's there for the youth?
But that gives him enough time to actually find a space. It's a whole year away.
Well, and I'm not thinking just of him. I'm thinking of the potential for all the youth. And so my ask is really, can we throw like $2,000-3,000 in one of these line items for Darnell? And then put a pin in it and not spend it on this, right? Because this is a program we haven't approved as a board yet. But if we decide to approve it, then we won't have the money in the budget and we'll have to adjust the budget for it.
That makes sense too.
So that's why I brought it up tonight, is because we're talking about the budget.
Too many thousands every time.
What, those hoops are like $900 each?
So $2,000? 2,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that.
Asking for an estimate, we're gonna hold you to it.
I think they're less, but,
The
oh wait, no, ours was like 300 and then you got to do the striping.
striping.
Yeah.
would be
Yeah. If we can just put in 2,000 right now so that we at least have something in case the discussion goes there, and then we can get real quotes and everything. And if we need to make adjustments, we can. Or we don't have to. I don't know.
I see it.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it.
And then do an adjustment if we decide to move. Okay.
Cause this is.
Yeah.
Right. now.
Okay. I'm good with that. All right. On to more youth item. Because we're done with the budget.
Yeah.
Now,
We gotta talk about the splash
so
pad.
we got to move on to item C, which is the splash pad project. So I'm turning it over to the team over here to our right.
All right, so,
Dynamic duo.
since this, project has been fully turned over to me, as you guys know, this has been under permitting. We're hopefully getting towards our final, permit. As of right now, it's currently with, SCD, well, being reviewed by SCD and WSSC. They, in addition to DPOW, routinely providing comments and requests to the engineers, which is working towards our ultimate goal, but pushing the final permit date out a little bit.
You need to make some friends down there. I think so.
That is. So I guess what we really wanted to sort of let you guys know and sort of bring to your attention is, the longer this drags on, the more this project is going to cost. So at what point do we actually stop the bleed? And just to give you, some numbers to sort of munch on here. The original contract for phases 2 and 3, the price was $755,072.12. To date, $390,000 has already been paid by the town, leaving a balance of $365,000 and change.
For what exactly?
Yeah.
Stop the bleed.
That went toward the deposit to actually start making the custom
Have you been to
playground equipment. And there's a large in-ground holding tank.
How big is this gonna be?
If you go to our warehouse space, you will see what we have paid for.
So I think
I have to go over there and see.
we gave what 3 initial payments of $130,000 as a down payment.
What happened to a grant? Did we get a grant for this?
So there is,
That was,
That was the grant? Oh, jeez.
well, we got $275,000. Bond bill 22661.
That we can still collect.
that we can still collect. But I think the real bad news is because of the time, there have been change orders, right? So that 365, that was the balance, has now become 620,000.
Oh, Jesus.
Because the change order are approximately $255,000.
Wait, who did the change orders and why do we have to do the change order?
it was a DPI requirement that based on the square footage of the.
They didn't know that in the beginning?
Yes, but what happened was a lot of the stormwater management that was supposed to happen with the original phase, since we knew phases 2 and 3 were coming, it was deferred.
Before any of us got here, they deferred the stormwater management.
So with phases 2 and 3, they're holding us to that. There are things that we have to do because we're over the threshold for impervious surface. So basically what DPI is requiring us to do, essentially it's a large rain garden. It's held through the 100-year flood specifications. Pretty much it's a graded layer basin to direct stormwater away from the building and playground. It's layered with different aggregate layers to filter and slow the release of stormwater into the ground. The slowed release is something along the lines of 72 hours.
Let me ask you, can WSSC help us in any way?
That I do not know if there's actual grant for this sort of thing.
So there are grants through Chesapeake Bay Foundation. The grants through Chesapeake Bay Foundation will pay for some of the cost, but they will delay the project further, increasing the cost of the project.
Right.
We're stuck either way.
Right, so yeah.
Can we just sell the stuff we want?
No, because it's paid for by the state.
What's exactly what we have, then
Also been paid for, the state has paid for some of it, so we just have regulations.
Yeah, like.
Considered?
So have it in like 2 splash pad in one location and.
Yeah.
you have to go through surveying that,
Right, we have to go do that.
clearing land wherever that is.
And go through the.
It's all we have to do is rent or lease some animals and they will eat the grass and the shrubbery and all that stuff.
They don't often take down trees.
I mean, Clayton and I have been through like a bunch of different and even met with higher ups and DPIs. Can we do this? Can we do that? Can we? And it's really down, it's a lot with state requirements changing
Right.
too.
So, and again, the longer we wait, there are gonna be more state requirements changing. Also, we did look into possibly reducing the size, but that.
1 second, Commissioner.
Can't talk to him. The folks help us out with it.
So we've gotten, I think, all the money that's the state, they have really, how much money has the state given us on this? Like,
Oh, 260.
Senator.
well, plus the 390.
Plus the, no, the 260 and then we have 275.
Okay, so over,
We pay on 20, 130 more. Yeah, so we paid 130 out of our general account.
and if there was money to have at the state level, like we were told this year, there is no money to put in bond bills. Yeah, I mean, I think,
And it may have been difficult also because we already have a bond bill and.
We gotta use that money first.
Yeah, we already got $175,000. That's about 3 or 4 years old right now.
Okay, so and when does that expire?
2021.
Okay, so we need to use that so we can go ahead and ask for, and do another ask.
if we took money from the state for a playground for public open space, and we have all these bond bills for it, and then we don't build it.
No, we want to, but we can go back and say, hey, this is the new pricing and this is what we're dealing with so that they could help us moving forward, I think.
Then we would have to go through a whole Annapolis session when there is no money in the budget and no money coming from the federal government, and add another year or two to the project, which will make it cost more money, right?
So I would say the ask is roughly 360,000, 370,000. That's how much it would,
That we would need to asking
that
for.
we.
That we need to put in.
You want some. That's a lot of money.
I'm gonna bring. The open space, 5510.
Mhm.
That's supposed to be used for recreation or outdoor space in general, right? Isn't that what that grant funding is for? And I know it's not clear, it's not really,
I didn't ask about that. I mean, she said we used that money already.
use that money, but there was always a plan to get additional money to make it usable. Like, again, no one can go out there.
Yes, and we have a
now.
grant in along those lines, a
Right.
grant application in.
So. I know the timing is on, but is there, making a portion of that usable?
So,
Basketball court and splash park.
That's it's an access.
so the way the DPI information has been entered and this specific contract, the declaration of covenants is specific to that address, which is 5505. So it would have, so we would have to put it somewhere at or near that address. I understand that that's very close, but that's a, different address.
It was a typo.
Has anyone gone to 5510 other than Darnell and myself?
It's not,
You can drive it
Through there,
5510, the.
over there,
Grass?
yeah,
Okay.
it's like a, yeah, it's.
There's also.
That, yeah, we walked through there.
It's not-
Was there
it's not fake. Recreational activities, and then at that point, there has to be a containment factor.
Yeah, because you can't,
Children from wandering in the woods and things like that.
we're just adding.
Be a larger.
Sure.
I'll give you that money, don't worry about
Well, I think
What you mean?
you have like sources of the money from revenue or from bond bills coming back to us. And that's where the 150 that the only thing you're really asking us to take out of reserve is the 150
Well,
or more.
it would be three, because I was actually looking at possibly having it be a CIP project. But that doesn't make sense either, because every year, I mean, basically saving every year just to pay it, but the cost increases. So the total is 370,
So we would have to increase,
the 150. So we're at 620. We have a $275,000 bond bill, which brings it to 345.
Mhm.
So that 150 would become 345.
we have to.
You already took the 150, I have that in the budget for a purpose, right?
So, no, the 150 is specifically for the splash pad.
What about this other bond bill income of 150? On page. That, I think that's why
Verification.
22/6-61.
I don't know, 22 dash what?
It's 6-1.
Is that the, removing it, money from reserve? No, that's 43.
No, I think we spent that money this year and we're getting the reimbursement to come in next year,
22,661.
right? The one,
22, that's the bond bill, like 22,661, so.
22, 241 is the 270.
Right.
which is for
I'm sorry, let me go to 22.
splash pad.
60, going at 150. Trying to see, I can't, the bond bills are, I got them mixed up. The 21,241,
It's a splash pad.
yeah, splash pad, that's 275. So that's money that would be coming back to us,
Right.
plus the 150 from the reserve, right?
Yeah, but there's 150 from bond bill 2260.
But that's a different project. That's a different project. That's a part of the street project, school in Wilson Lane. We still have money from that.
I thought we were like, because we put in. Okay, so we spent money for the streetscape
Mhm.
project already.
And we haven't recovered
We
it.
asked for reimbursement, yeah, and so it's coming back into us.
Yeah, it's coming back into us. So we can count that as revenue. Right.
Right, which is this 150, right?
Mhm.
So that means we would only need to take 295. Am I doing math right?
So we're at 625 minus 275, right? That's 350 minus 150. That's what 200.
Gets us to 200.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not far off from what we were originally told we were going to be spending on it. What were we told? 170? You had looked at what we had been told initially, like when this first
When it first
started.
started, it was estimated at $1 million. And I think, yeah, the town was on the hook for like 370 or $400,000. So we're about there.
Yeah. So I don't remember if I was on the board when that was agreed to or not, but I do remember the costs coming through. But basically, the town agreed to pay almost this amount of money.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we're really saying the increase is like $70,000 or something
mhm,
over what we previously agreed to.
right.
That's a much different story than almost 400,000.
I think it's just that the way it had been laid out was we were going to be paying it over each year. We were going to pay maybe $70,000, and because we got stuck in DPI and got stuff added, it didn't get paid out over those other years, and so now
It all needs to be paid.
it needs to be paid. And we have the money in reserve
Yes.
because we have had increased revenues this year. So.
So thank you for that. It does sound a lot better than 400,000. You know, that 150, yes, that is coming back to us. So she was right about that. So we're on 250,000.
Okay. So. I guess the question is, do we put this in the budget and then we're introducing the budget at the next meeting, which we still have to work out the date issue. And at that point, when we're ready to introduce it, that's when we decide if we're keeping it in or pulling it out. Right? That lets us all sit with it. But we'll put it in and then we can choose to pull it out if that's works.
Is there an option? I mean, I don't think we have an option
We don't really have the option not to do it.
of not to
No,
do it, right?
but
Same.
We can't stop the bleed.
we can stop it from getting worse.
So if this happens, if we agree to appropriate this funding, has DPI signed off on whatever they need to sign off?
Not as a-
3 years.
Not appropriate.
So I think that that's the biggest problem. Because if we can't lock them in, then they're subject to more changes.
Next year.
So, yeah, I mean, I think with, I guess, I know, you meet with the contractor weekly, every 2 weeks. I mean, I think we've got to get to a point where we talk to them and say, when does this end? I mean, it seems to be, we get a correction, we make a correction, submit our corrections, and then they give us more corrections.
So is this a subcontractor coming out on behalf
That's
of?
not something, that's typically not how the process goes. Like, well, I mean, we should be ending at some point, right? So I think that's the discussion that we need to have with the consultants, because I mean, there's a bigger issue of DPI is giving us corrections and then they come back and say, oh, we missed something, so we're gonna keep beating you down. I mean, can't do that.
Some resolution to that, the contract piece, and there anyone we can lean on at the county, our council member,
That's what I was asking.
our at-large members to engage on.
That was, I'm gonna say that's going to be a hard ask, because I believe a lot of this, and the reason that that everything is so stringent with DPI is that incident with National Harbor. So since then, everything has increased. And we're not the only ones. Even Park and Planning, their playgrounds have been held up for quite a while, so.
What phase of this, where are we at? Like, where are we with
Phase zero.
I mean, like, because, you know, oftentimes, I mean,
So
where are we? Are we at
we're
the
under
end?
final technical approval. And with that, then it goes to Soil Conservation District. They have to, sign off on everything. And so does WSSC for the plumbing that runs to the splash pad from the building. So they get to provide feedback and comments and requests as well, so.
Is it possible that WSSC can also require us to additional?
Yes, they can, but it's not likely at this
So
phase.
what I can do is I can contact WSSC's municipal person, and I can contact our friends over at Soil Conservation and ask them if we can have pre-application meetings to just see if there's anything if they're willing to do that with us, and see if there's anything glaring right away. I don't know necessarily if they'll be willing, but if they are, then we'll have a better sense.
So let me ask you, what's the ask from WSSC?
I'm just gonna ask them if we can have a pre-application meeting. They may say, no, we don't do pre-application meetings, but if they're willing to do one with us because we're a municipality, and at least give us the.
Application meeting, okay, now I know what to ask for.
We've been at this for how long?
It's 6 years, 6 years,
Yeah,
several years.
So.
and I have contact, I'll reach out to them. Okay.
But the project we're in 19. Yeah, 19 and 20, so.
Swag that be by the time it's done. She's 4.
It's really getting, I think we should also sit down with our consultant, whoever the permit person, and say, we're having these meetings every 2 weeks, but we need to really sit down and say, this is the game plan moving forward. This is our timeline, and and we gotta go.
And then that was the next question. On the hook for any ongoing payments, either to Sparks or to whoever, while we await for these approvals.
Well, no, we're not
We
gonna
don't pay them.
pay this. So they're not billing us.
Okay, so if we put this in the budget, we go down the path of trying to, resolve this issue, get to a point that can't be resolved. Not necessarily out any more money than we are at this point.
Right. But this is
Just
I mean, but this should be resolved. I mean, we can do it.
Yes.
We can do it, so it should be resolved. So I think we really need to sit down with Spark and Play. And do that.
The contact that I have, and you has been really responsive, thanks, so.
It's been
We need to
difficult
ask them.
east.
Understood.
And
Yeah.
we can talk a little more offline, but
Yeah, yes. My opinion is we put it in the budget, we'll have discussions, we'll have the public weigh in on it. But do whatever we can do to drive this. Because this was supposed to be a big thing for the town of Upper Marlboro
Mhm.
several years ago, and it's still, the train station is very nice, quite nice.
We got
No, the lobby is nice.
All right.
Let's drive this to.
Man, guys,
Okay, are we ready to move from this discussion?
yes.
So we're gonna go on to administrative updates. First, before we get into the other issue we need to just update everyone on, we need to set our next meeting date. Because the 27th is when our elections are. Can we meet next Tuesday on the 20th, or do we need to pick a different day? Or do we want to meet virtually on the 27th, which will split Clayton in two?
But the Board of Supervisors and Attorney Rock recommended changing the date, completely not having the meeting on the night of the election, so.
Are we gonna have answers to all of these questions?
By the 20th?
Yes.
That's nice.
We will have talked to some people, I can tell you
I'm
that.
talking about not just this particular issue, but the budget ready for introduction.
Yeah.
Everything that needs to be-
Yes, we have to have that.
That'll be all ready by then.
Yes, we have to have that.
Well, and if we introduce it,
Why we can't just do June 3rd? Instead of another week, meeting next week.
can we introduce the budget a week before we adopt it? No.
No, and we don't have enough. We would have to do it on the, no, we don't have the time to do it.
Because we'll be adopting the budget on June 10th, which is exactly 20 days from, or 21 days from when it needs to take place and be enacted. So, it's 20 days.
20 days.
So it's either we meet on the 20,
It's the 20th, 27th, the 3rd, the 10th. Those are all Tuesdays.
We could be virtually if we have to do it before the 27th.
so if we meet on the 20th, that's next week, we can have everything ready to go. It's a Tuesday, blah, blah, blah. We could also meet. I can't meet on the 28th. We can meet on the 29th, which is the Thursday. If we meet on the 29th, do we get into this weird situation where you have to swear the person in, which I'm not like opposed to, it just adds time to our thing and give our new commissioner like a day before.
Special, we have to be sworn in, I think it's the. Let me find it. It's like yeah, it's like the second Monday, so no, they wouldn't, yes, in June. It would be in June when they work.
Okay, I thought it was something like the next regular, and that wouldn't be a regular.
No, it's
So there you go.
not.
Okay. That's just really fast to plan a swearing in. So we can meet on the 20th or the 29th, or I guess we can meet 22nd. We just need to come to an agreement on when we're gonna meet. You have, Commissioner Brooks, you have the most restrictions to your schedule. So why don't you tell us what?
Virtually.
We can either meet virtually on the 27th. Our town administrator will have to also potentially assist the Board of Supervisors of Elections, which will make it, he'll be in two places at once.
That's it.
But we can do it virtually. We can always do it hybrid, right?
Monday next week.
Yeah, does Tuesday work? Is Tuesday a good night for you or is it not a good night?
But virtually. If that okay.
I mean, is it okay if we do it blended so people can feel like here or want to do it just virtual? Because you could be on the, what are your thoughts? With blended versus virtual?
It could be blended.
I mean, we can do it virtually. I just
Probably better. I think it's better.
do it all virtual. Okay, so 5:20, all virtual. And you'll put out the notice.
Yes.
The only sort of tricky thing is that we have to put out. We have to put in the paper when we do the budget.
No, not specific. Well, yeah, we have advertising, so we will do that.
The public hearings, so everyone is aware, is going to be on June 10th. And we have to advertise that by Monday.
Yeah, this is the advertising.
That'll be advertised at that time. And just to clarify, if we keep the splash pad in, and then we get to June 10th and decide we want to take it out after it's been introduced, we can do that, yes? So, okay. Is everyone comfortable with May 20th, all virtual, June 10th, we're passing budget?
Yes.
Okay, next administrative update is around Marlboro Day. I don't know if anyone saw the news over the weekend, but Laurel's Main Street Festival had a lot of activity. They had a vendor's propane tank explode and cause a fire and cancel their parade. And then they had someone drive through their barricade into the festival. They were driving slow, but it is a second incident in Maryland where someone has driven into a street festival. And so, you know, there's two issues. I'm going to start with our town administrator to deal with the fire safety issue, and then we're going to talk with the police chief and our director of public works about the safety issue.
Right, so we will have a fire inspector is supposed to be there. But with respect to the issue that happened with the exploding propane tank, we are taking measures to basically document who has flammable equipment, who has a generator, who has a propane tank. We haven't done it in the past, but this year, they're going to be assigned spaces. So, you know, if anything like that happens, we'll know who it is, who the vendor is and things like that. And so that's what we're doing on the general government side there. Currently, the vendors that we have in place that would have a propane tank would be the food trucks. We have 5 food trucks. I believe we have the photo booth requested a generator as well. And Aiden, just do you know who else did anyone else request a generator that you can recall?
At this time, no, we'll be calling generators.
Yeah.
But apart from maybe talking to the DJ,
Yeah.
I think
That's it. So we will, you know, we will make sure that all of them are documented and that the fire inspector, you know, inspects each space before the event starts. So I guess I'll turn it over to public safety, but that they're going to show, if you haven't seen it, sorry.
Right, so, have everybody seen the video? I mean, if everybody's seen it.
Well, I mean, I think they could benefit from kind of showing the deficiencies and how
There's several.
we're going to,
Yeah.
right, and how we're going to address those, so.
Stop! Yes, stop! Stop!
She had to go to work. She did.
I was talking about this week, flying around at the Main Street. Fortunately, for night, that week is now facing temperature charges. You can stay up with us for 4 hours.
That's probably good. No, definitely didn't make it to work.
All respect, city of Laurel. This is not a slight on them necessarily. What it is that this lady was, from my understanding, the residents were advised that this parade was going on. And everybody needed to move their car outside of the area that she drove down. Apparently she didn't do that, so we all saw what happened. This has been a concern of mine pretty much since I've been here. That's one of the reasons why we spent the money several years ago to get the road barriers. However, there are some small gaps that we still feel something like this could potentially happen. So we're looking at potentially buying some barriers that we can either put water in or sand, preferably water, because it's easier to just drain out. Right now, we're still looking to see if it's possible to rent them, but at some point, we're gonna have to buy these things. I don't know if you remember earlier this year, I talked about what happened in Louisiana, when we all saw that on New Year's Day, when a person drove down through Bourbon Street and killed, I think it was 10 people, or whatever it was. Last year, I mean, not last week, Montgomery County had a similar situation where a lady was driving down a path where runners were running on. So I believe they actually had to use a police car to actually run into her car to stop her from driving continuously on to possibly hit individuals. So we're looking to possibly find some money in the current budget to buy these barriers, or at least rent them maybe this year and buy them for next year. So it just depends. If we have to buy them, it's probably $5,000. If we rent them, obviously be less than that. So we just want to make you guys aware that it might be slight adjustment because Marlboro Day is in a couple of weeks. So we got to kind of, we have identified a couple of little vulnerable spots, and I don't want to say them publicly because obviously it would be public knowledge, but we do identify some areas. We have identified a couple of areas. These would be useful, so.
If you want to talk with Chief about that, you can do so individually, so that you're aware after the recording. The reason we're bringing this up now is that we may have to do an emergency budget ordinance adjustment to allocate, depending on where the funds are coming from, to reallocate funds to this. So that may be in front of us next week. I just think, I don't know what everyone else thinks, but given this is twice, we can't.
And we're also looking, we're gonna make sure that all of the business owners know what the closures are, because, you know, people forget, people don't, and sometimes they don't have sufficient notice, which could have happened to the young lady there. So we just want to make sure all of the businesses know, so that they don't show up and get a little anxious as well and want to go around barricades. So we will be putting that information out this week on the businesses.
And I mean, I've had people upset because my rule is you cannot park your car inside the festival, and people have gotten upset in previous years, and this is why. That's my rule, so. Speaking of Marlboro Day, while we're here, pony rides, face painting, bounce house, photo booth, fishing derby, essay contest, choir, DJ, dance demonstrations, and really cool giveaways for town residents only. Like, I know I thought the hats were cool. Not everyone did, but these are way cooler. And you can still get a hat, like one. And I think there's a raffle too.
Yeah.
Did I get everything?
Yeah.
It is June 7th, starting at 10. Everyone should come. You want to add anything to that, Commissioner Brooks?
The Clayton and agents and all the volunteers doing a great job putting this together. So hopefully people will come.
And there's cool trophies and prizes.
We're gonna come out at 10, don't we usually come out earlier?
The parade starts at 10. The parade usually starts at 10.
Okay.
Yeah. There's cool trophies and actual prizes if you're part of the essay contest, fishing contest.
And we wanted some car clubs. We haven't had any yet, so it'll be, you know, best car in the parade or something like that.
If you're a car club and you want to join the parade, there's that trophy. All right, so I just wanted to plug that. And it's still 2. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so we'll see you there. So we'll move on to the next meeting's agenda unless anyone else has an administrative update.
I wanted to ask, I sent an email about a week ago,
Mhm.
and Commissioner Colbert did respond. It was regarding surplus property. So before I send a formal letter,
Mhm.
I want to make sure I get a response from everyone. So
Yeah, Yeah.
The email, sorry.
everyone should respond individually to you. Okay. So next, meeting's agenda would be the introduction of the FY 26 budget. We introduced the vacant property fix last time, so we'll approve that. We'll have the budget book. We can either look at it or approve it, because we can always approve it on the 10th. And then this possible emergency budget adjustment to ensure safety at Margaret Bay. Did I miss anything?
the charter, I thought we were going to,
The charter stuff will come. We should send everyone what the attorneys give us when they have it ready. But that'll be given to us on the,
well, currently, I mean, we have the draft of the remaining charter.
okay, so should we try and discuss it on the 20th or
I mean, I think that would be,
charter amendments? Any concerns for the agenda? All right, then. Director Bond.
Updates.
Oh, administrative update, sorry.
Yeah. I'll promise I'll make it quick. We do have a little bit of an issue, with the, pretty much, I wanna get you guys' opinion on sort of foregoing the three proposal process, because as of this time, I've reached out to at least 6 firms, and it's been, just about a month now, and, we've only received 1 proposal. That proposal is under the $10,000 threshold. To be specific, it's 9,500. That does that redoes the speed humps. It does all of the parking spaces, our metered parking spaces. It is seal coating and restriping the town hall parking lot. ADA compliant spaces on Governor Odom Bowie, just those sort of things. So just wanted to see you guys' appetite for that. Well, first off, does anyone have any questions about that or any opinions?
Cause you sent out 6 proposals, only got 1 back.
I think we have to agree to, we might have to even do this next week, but we have to agree to forego our typical process.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I will still see if I can solicit more proposals, but
We might have to bring that up next meeting. We have to run it by the attorney.
And just really quick, pleased to announce that as part of our ongoing efforts to advance the department and ensure that qualified professionals are handling critical responsibilities, the entire department has successfully attended and completed the 2-day winter maintenance operator and supervisor certificate course that was offered by the Mid-Atlantic chapter of APWA. Additionally, we had the opportunity to engage with instructors who represent some of the highest snow accumulation areas in North America and Canada. It was a valuable training that provided us with, new insights and definitely identified areas of improvement that we'll be addressing and implementing this coming season. That's it.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.